What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. V Rising came out about 2 days ago, and to say that this game surprised me would be a severe understatement. This is a survival game based on, basically I've seen some comparisons to something like Valheim or Ark, but with a unique twist that it exists in a world where you basically play as a vampire, and so a lot of the powers and the things that you do in the game are based around vampire mythology, and you'll find yourself going through the game fighting against humans that are trying to track you, other vampires, and basically all kinds of creatures of the night. Now, if this sounds like something that interests you, there is so much more going on with this game. And as mentioned, this is a survival game. So when you spawn in right at the beginning, you essentially have to start from scratch, gathering material and essentially crafting and forging your tools that you are able to then eventually go out and kill some enemies and further on progress in the story until you eventually have to create your own base or castle. Now, I recently streamed this and I thought I was going to be playing for a short amount of time, but I just chewed up so much of my evening, and it has been such a joy to play and to see a early access game actually have polish when it comes out. Now that is probably the best compliment that I can give Stunlock, the studio behind this, because even though this is an early access, there's not only a lot to do here with over 30 bosses for you to hunt in the game and a huge amount of things for you to build into your castle, a massive map to explore, and a whole bunch of skills to unlock. But at the same time, all of these things work so well in this early access version of the game that I can only imagine what this will be like as we get closer to a version 1 release. Combat is snappy, the encounters are great, it's fantastic to see how your base basically develops, and essentially the mechanics that are built into it are phenomenal. But let me explain a little bit more about exactly how this works. So when you start the game out, you basically spawn from a casket and you essentially start finding your way out into the world. There's a great tutorial that's built into this, which kind of methodically teaches you how to play the game, and essentially I wouldn't call it hand holding, but it certainly is a better approach to what we see with some survival games, which essentially, you know, drop you out in the wild and you just gotta like figure things out yourself. So while I do appreciate a little bit of hand holding with this, some people might feel that the tutorial drags on a little bit, but this is entirely up to your own speed and essentially how you go through the game. There's a whole bunch of mechanics built into this. The fact that it's a vampire-based game means that you are also responsible for health management and draining enemies while you fight them. And all of your skills kind of work around that way, where you have stuff that life leeches and everything like that. Now, the main way that you actually do combat in this game is that you use melee weapons, and all of these have different move sets, different abilities that you can eventually unlock for them. And all of this as an over still has abilities that you can use, spells that you can cast, ultimates that you can use, and different abilities that you can use to sort of move in and out of combat. All of this is complemented by a really snappy sort of combat engine, and this is really good when you start thinking about the fact that this game is not only PvE but also has PvP. So what this means is that when you launch into the game originally, you have several choices for the kind of game that you want to play. So of course you have PvE, which is just you against the world. You build your castle, and the only thing that you ever have to fear is actual, you know, NPC enemies out in the world and bosses that you go and fight. This is definitely a much more relaxed way of playing the game, and this is actually the way that I originally started it, because I wanted to learn the systems and I wanted to understand the game a bit more. Then when we move over to the PvP side, there's actually two different flavors of PvP that you can get. On the one side, you can get a soft PvP, which means that you can fight other players and they can fight you, of course. You can damage each other and you can kill each other. And when you die, you can loot the construction material that they have on them. So however many trees and rock and whatever they mined, you can take that from them. But any of their crafted gear, their items, their armor and all of that, you cannot take. And while you can raid their castle, you can't completely destroy it, but rather only destroy some of the things inside it and actually loot some of the things inside it. Then on the other side, you have the harder PvP, which is essentially everything that I said just now dialed up to 11. So when you kill an enemy player, you can actually loot all of their crafted equipment, their weapons, their armor, everything that they had on them. And also, once you actually gain access into their castle or loot their castle, you can essentially raise the entire thing down to the ground. Now, to complement this, the studio themselves recommend certain player sizes for whatever you want to do. What I mean by this is that in the game you can also form clans up to, I believe, I don't think it's up to 4 is the maximum, but I believe that 4 is the default. And so the point then being that obviously if you play some of these more difficult PvP modes, it counts in your favor to actually be in one of these clans, because you will generally always be at a disadvantage if you have to go up against 2 or 3 guys, or maybe 4 guys that are raiding your keep or your castle. Now, one other thing that you have to bear in mind though is, even though I've just mentioned this numerical disadvantage and things like that, PvP is normalized. So it means that when you actually engage in PvP with another player, it's much more rewarding of skill and the skills that you use, rather than the fact that you have, you know, let's say a level 30 or level 35 and another person has 15, and so automatically you just win due to that. Now, I will admit I don't have a lot of experience with the PvP yet. I've literally just started wetting my toes in that, but look for the channel and look for more updates on PvP as sort of the days go by and I get some more time on the weekend to play. However, what we're seeing here right now is super impressive. And again, like I said, if this is what the package looks like in early access, it makes me extremely hopeful for what we can see when the full release of the game comes. The only real concern that I would leverage at this point is that performance does seem to be a little bit of an issue in the game. And of course, there's a certain amount of map density that you can have in each map that you join. By the way, you can also host your own dedicated server and also play locally on your own machine, even though you do still need internet connectivity for that. But nonetheless, there are performance issues in this game, and something that I saw now when I got around the 10, 11, 12 hour playing, and actually my castle had grown in size and had a lot more stuff on the inside of it, and I was actually progressing into further areas of the map as well while other players were running around and doing things, is that you do see a performance problem and kind of start seeing, you know, drop frames, lost frames, and just in general the machine, well, sort of the game just sort of like hitching on a little bit. Now, I think this is something that's probably in a way engine related and maybe netcode related, maybe a combination of those two things. So it remains to be seen how far you know, this issue will progress, and if it really is a showstopper or a problem down the line, or if this is something that V Rising's developers are already looking at to improve with you know, additional releases of the game. Certainly, as this game is quite popular right now, of course this issue is exasperated, but then, you know, as the initial hype of a game dies down, I suppose that a lot of this problem will kind of go away as well. So perhaps the idea here is also that this thing will sort of fix itself organically over time. But nonetheless, this is an exciting game, an exciting universe to be part of. Certainly at the price point of this and what you get for it, it's a ridiculous value. I have played a lot of early access games. I've played a lot of early access survival games, and a lot of the times these are very hit or miss, with some of them being great value for money. I believe Valheim would be a fantastic example of that. And then on the other side, you are looking at things which are basically no value whatsoever, and essentially employing you as a playtester for the game while crashing and just having general problems all the time. Again, super impressive of what this brings to the table and what this is. And the other thing, of course, is that this surprised me out of the bat, you know, so crazily. Like about a week before this came out was the first time I heard about it, and that's of course when content was starting to spin up for it. So it is a super cool thing that out of the blue we can still receive little surprises like this and just little gems like this that we can actually enjoy. But for me, from the Full Measure side, I highly recommend this. And if you have any doubts about this, look out for my streams. I'll probably be playing this for the next couple of days. And so if you have any doubts, you have any questions, anything like that, pop into a stream, come check me out, ask me anything about that. But I would highly recommend that you give this game a little bit of your time, perhaps a lot of your time. And I think you might be in for a good one. But that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. It's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, a great afternoon, and a super awesome evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.